All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome into the all-new Bettor Morning right here on the Bettor Sports Network. I am your host, Corey Parson, the fantasy executive, and you see me sitting up here by myself, flying solo on this good Monday morning, August 28th. And the reason because of that, the reason you do not see Britt or Flynn or Andrew Cooper with me is because we didn't tell you all this, but the show was really like a reality show to see who can make it to the end. And I was the one who survived. Nah, we kid. But we got a good program on deck for you today, getting ready to recap what took place in the NFL this weekend, and got some college football coming up for you as the Heisman Trophy race has already seen two front runners. But obviously the story of this weekend is the fact that on Friday, the San Francisco 49ers traded Trey Lance to the Dallas Cowboys for a fourth-round draft pick. The Niners basically admitting that trading up, using those assets a few years ago to trade up to the third pick of the draft, to draft Lance, was actually a mistake. Son could never really get on the field. And people say, oh, well, you didn't really give him an opportunity. Obviously, they see the young man in practice. They know it wasn't working out. And listen, I've been very critical of the 49ers and Trey Lance over this trade for a couple years ago. You know me, I'm a Mac Jones supporter. I thought the pick at 3 should have been Mac Jones, and I thought they were shamed out of it. And this is the price they pay. Now, with that being said, how does Trey Lance fit with the Dallas Cowboys? Why is Trey Lance on the Dallas Cowboys, a team that not only has a starting quarterback who is in that bottom half of the top 10 in the NFL, they also have what many would consider the best backup quarterback in the NFL in Cooper Rush, and they just released another good quarterback in Will Grier who would probably get picked up. So why Trey Lance in a Dallas Cowboy uniform? I'm going to get to Jerry Jones' comments in a little bit, but I'm going to tell you some of my thoughts on why we see Trey Lance wearing the most famous insignia of all the sports on his helmet. And let's start with the fact that Trey Lance has, at least from what we can tell, from what he should be able to have, a working knowledge of the San Francisco 49ers offense. This is the same San Francisco 49er team that eliminated the Dallas Cowboys from the playoffs each of the last 2 years. Now you get to take somebody out San Francisco's quarterback room. Dallas and San Francisco playing the regular season this year. So Trey Lance helps the defense in that way. He can give them some of the intricacies to the San Francisco 49er defense. And also, if there is another playoff matchup between the Dallas Cowboys and San Francisco 49ers this year, Trey Lance can also help prepare the Dallas defense as he knows what goes on inside that 49er offense. Now, that part right there, I think is a win. I think that's pretty smart. Nobody's mentioning or talking about that, but I guarantee you that had something to do with it. Another thing that probably has something to do with it is the fact that Dak Prescott needs to shape up. That's the bottom line. 25 interceptions in his last 28 games is not going to cut it. The Dallas Cowboys have a Super Bowl-ready roster right now. The NFC is a weak conference that only features two teams that are really better than the Cowboys, and the Philadelphia Eagles and the San Francisco 49ers, but Dallas can and should be able to compete with those teams. The reasons why they're not getting it done, for the most part, is on the arm of one player, Dak Prescott. Terrible performance last year in the NFC division round playoff game against those San Francisco 49ers. So, yes, I went into the draft thinking that the Cowboys needed to draft a quarterback. I was thinking Hendon Hooker. He ended up with the Detroit Lions. But somebody to be there, to be in that room, you know, to have Prescott look over his shoulder a little bit, because competition does raise people to an elite status. Now, a lot of people this week, that's not fair to Prescott. Why is Prescott being treated this way? He's one of the top quarterbacks in the league. What other starting quarterback would have a guy to come in there and look over their shoulder? First of all, if Prescott is worried about Trey Lance, he's got a major problem, because Cooper Rush went 5-1 as a starter last year. I'd worry about him first. Lance is far down the road. But the bottom line of the matter is this. Yes, Dak needs somebody to give him a sense of competition. That's just the bottom line of the matter. Why does he get to sit up there with his feet up, throw interceptions, not really seem to care, and then all of a sudden we are supposed to be like, oh, why does Dak Prescott need competition? Jerry Jones came to the podium and he said that Trey Lance was a developmental project and they like to have a developmental guy in their quarterback room. Interesting, Jerry also said in 2020, if Jalen Hurts, he didn't mention him by name, but he said the Eagles quarterback, if the Eagle quarterback would have failed, we would have took him too. Now, that was a year that Dak Prescott ended up getting hurt. So what you're seeing is the Cowboys truly are looking to see what the deal is at that quarterback situation. And yes, Lance may be developmental. Jerry said in no way, shape, or form does he want to see Trey Lance on the field this year. There will not be any special Trey Lance packages being rolled out this season like San Fran tried to do. The job belongs to Dak Prescott. But if Dak Prescott wants to get a contract extension, be the Dallas Cowboy quarterback for a long time, he needs to understand that he needs to play better. And that needs to happen this season. I don't want to say that the window is closing, but Dak Prescott going into his 30-year-old season, listen, it is time to either tankle or get off the pot, Prescott. You have a job to get this team to at least the NFC Championship game. And yeah, the defense plays a critical role. And obviously the Cowboys are legit on defense with guys like Trayvon Diggs and Micah Parson, could be the best defensive 1-2 duo in the NFL. Dan Quinn, one of the better defensive coordinators. Listen, the roster is stacked. To me, the only question mark is the quarterback. So now Dak Prescott, you get a little bit of competition in the room, a little bit hot under the collar. Truly wouldn't worry about it. Now, what I did like what Jerry said, asked in the press conference, did they alert Dak Prescott before doing the move? Jerry looked at the reporter like he couldn't understand the question. And I understand why. Because it's not the NBA. You don't go to the player and ask the player's permission or consult with the player before you make a move. Jerry said, hey, this is what we do when asked about that. This is what me and Steven do. We don't consult the players on move we make. Dak didn't know about it until everybody else knew about it. Hell, Mike McCarthy didn't even know about it. Now, McCarthy was a report that said that McCarthy does like the player. They liked him during the draft process. Interesting to see him in the quarterback room. But that right there was the big story of this NFL weekend. Now, preseason is over. We've already seen 3 preseason games go down. So now we can start to get ready and prepare for the upcoming NFL season. Like the preseason is in the books. Now, we still got some time to get ready for the fantasy football drafts coming up. So what you need to do is start a free 7-day trial of Fantasy Alarm's All-Pro subscription and get the Fantasy Alarm Fantasy Football Draft Guide and cheat sheet for free. Now, I said the word free twice, so let me say it a couple more times. Start a free 7-day trial of Fantasy Alarm's All-Pro subscription and get the Fantasy Football Draft Guide and cheat sheet for free. Go to fantasyalarm.com/draft. Now, preseason football really doesn't have like a whole lot of meaning to it. For the most part, you see the Hall of Fame game. Yay, football's back on TV. Everybody gets excited. Maybe that first Thursday night, that first weekend. But by the time we get into the middle or deeper into August, you're tired of preseason football and want to get to the real thing. Because for the most part, the preseason is meaningless. But I do want to be honest with you. If you go 3-0 in the preseason, I think that's something that you can really be optimistic about. And there were 3 teams this year to go 3-0 in the preseason. And I want to start in the NFC, where the Washington Commanders went 3-0 in the preseason. And there does seem to be some optimism about the team as we get ready for week 1 of the season. Now, the win total for the Commanders is sitting at 6.5. I think that's a little bit too low. So I'm going to bet the over. I'll take the over 6.5 on the Commanders' win total to the window. As a matter of fact, I'll bet the plus 290 for the Washington Commanders to be a playoff team this year. And the reason why? Because I think Sam Howell has been pretty impressive this preseason. He's thrown 3 touchdown passes. He's looked very in sync and in tune with the offense. New offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy seems to be singing his praises. So I think Washington, for like the first time in forever, has a little bit of reasons to be optimistic about what's going on at their quarterback position. Now, they open up at home versus the Cardinals. Washington is a 6.5 point favorite, may push up to 7. That's a little bit too high, despite the Cardinals being a bum. Now, Washington is home favorites in the Ron Rivera era are 3-5 ATS and 4-4 on the money line. So I really wouldn't take the Commanders to the window. I'm not going to bet the Cardinals either. It'll probably be a game I lay off of, but there is reason to be optimistic about the old football team. Hail to the Commanders as they get ready for the upcoming season. Once again, over 6.5. Commanders go 3-0 in the preseason. I like them to at least get 7 regular season wins. As a matter of fact, I like them to qualify for the playoffs in the NFC. Moving over to the AFC, 3-0 preseason for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Kenny Pickett, Mike Tomlin, and the crew getting it done. Now, Pittsburgh Steelers coming to the regular season with a win total sitting at 8.5. Now, this opened up at 7.5 and actually got bet up to 8.5. It looks like sharp money is all in on the Pittsburgh Steelers this year being a contender in the AFC. Because if they can get to 9 wins, they'll be in the playoff hunt. Kenny Pickett has taken improvement, has made improvements, has taken some steps, and we've seen it play out on the field so far this preseason. George Pickens is a guy that was running up fantasy draft boards. People are getting real excited about him. And obviously, Mike Tomlin is going to have that defense ready. Now, the Pittsburgh Steelers open up their campaign against in a home contest against the aforementioned San Francisco 49ers. Mike Tomlin and the Steelers have 4 straight week 1 wins. The Steelers opened up as a 3-point home dog. That number is now down to 2.5. Money line the Pittsburgh Steelers. They are going to upset the San Francisco 49ers in week 1. 4 straight week 1 wins for Mike Tomlin will become 5 straight week 1 wins. Now, mind you, the 49ers lost their opener last season on the road to the Chicago Bears. There's no reason why they can't go in there and drop the ball this year. Kenny Pickett and the crew. Listen, the Pittsburgh Steelers over the last 4 years, 7-2 ATS as home dogs. That's an easy number. Go ahead and get the W. Hit that money line on the Pittsburgh Steelers for week 1. And as far as that total goes, I would lean over 8.5. Like I said, I like the Steelers to be a playoff team this year, but that's not something I'm willing to run to the window like I am with the Commanders. Now, the other team to start off the preseason with a 3-0 record was the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jacksonville 3-0 in the preseason. A lot of people very optimistic about the Jacksonville Jaguars, right? You come in there, you get another year of Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence after the greatness that Trevor Lawrence had last season. So pretty interesting in seeing that. Now, Jacksonville plays in a weaker division in the AFC South. They're minus $1.60 to win the division. I'm not ready to lay $1.60 yet, but it's really no reason to think that Jacksonville cannot control that division. Now, what I will say about Jacksonville is, despite playing in that weaker division, when they get out of conference and they get to some other divisions, I think they could struggle. But a 3-0 preseason for the Jacksonville Jaguars has a lot of people very optimistic. Now, they open up against their division rival, Indianapolis Colts. They go to Indianapolis. Listen, over the past 3 seasons, the Colts 7-10 ATS at home. I still don't feel comfortable laying a number on the road for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So that's not going to be something that makes my roster. New head coach for Indianapolis, new quarterback for Indianapolis. So it is not going to happen. But still, Jacksonville Jaguars 3-0 preseason. Take it for what it's worth to go along with the Commanders and the rest of the Commanders and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, Aaron Rodgers made his New York Jet debut this weekend, and you know what? It went pretty well. The Jets beat the Giants 32-24. Rodgers played 2 series. He was 5 for 8, 47 yards, and a touchdown pass to Garrett Wilson. Now, Aaron Rodgers has a chance to really be an X factor in the NFL this season. And that young man on your screen, Garrett Wilson, can be a big part of it. As a matter of fact, I got pretty excited about some of the things I saw, and I took Garrett Wilson in the draft. Now, Rodgers, you can get as your quarterback too. This Jet team should play good defense, right? I don't see them as a team that wants to run the score, but I think Rodgers will bring efficiency to their offense. So I think they're going to be a solid team. I like the Jets this year, to be honest with you. And those are probably words I've never said before. So I'm feeling pretty optimistic about the New York Jets. I like them at plus 250 to win the AFC East. And I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be good for them. Now, when you get into the playoffs, that AFC is rough. Can they be a Baltimore? Can they be a Cincinnati? Can they be a Kansas City? I think the Jets can be right there with them. So I like the New York Jets going into this season. New York Jets open up with that big battle against the Buffalo Bills on Monday Night Football to start the year. I like the Jets to go and get that upset. Now, we did have some college football week 0 action take place this week. And, listen, early season college football can be kind of, you mean to tell me they're a 37-point favorite? So we're going to see a lot of teams being asked to lay big wood, 37, 25, whatever. Now, this weekend, we did see Heisman Trophy frontrunner Caleb Williams get off to a fantastic start. I think Williams is going to be the first player since Archie Griffin to win 2 Heisman trophies, but he was a casual 18-25, 278 yards, and 4 touchdown passes against San Jose State. And listen, USC is the 6th ranked team in the country, and San Jose State's an FCS school trying to make it. Truth of the matter is, though, what you saw from Williams is what you want to see. And to be honest, USC does not have a big game until they get to November and go to Notre Dame. So they get a chance to beat up on some teams. Williams should be a favorite by the time they get to that game against Notre Dame when they go to South Bend. Williams should be well ahead of the pack. I don't know if he's going to be a minus money favorite, but by the time you get there, Williams will probably be in that plus 250 range because the schedule is weak and they'll be able to put up some tremendous stats. But if I'm a USC fan, or if I'm somebody that's betting on USC to make a deep run in the Pac-12 or maybe even a run to the college football playoffs, that defense is still terrible. San Jose State was still kind of moving the ball at will. USC won the game by, I believe, 28. They were 30 points favorite, so San Jose State cashes, but Caleb Williams did what we wanted him to do. Now, talk about that game, USC versus Notre Dame. That game could really be a Heisman showcase game because new Notre Dame quarterback Sam Hartman was just as terrific this weekend as Caleb Williams was. And he's a guy that's going to start making some noise in the Heisman Trophy race, especially if Notre Dame can get an early season win a couple of weekends later this month, when they play Ohio State. But Hartman was 19 for 23, only 4 incompletions, and Navy's no stiff. Notre Dame covered the number easily, but don't act like Navy's just some stiffs out there. 266 yards, 4 touchdowns. Notre Dame romps Navy 42-3 in Dublin, Ireland. Notre Dame's a team I'm very excited about and optimistic on this year. Notre Dame to make the college football playoff at plus 500 is a wager I'm willing to take. And I would also continue to keep my eyes on Sam Hartman because if Notre Dame goes into Ohio State, and if Ohio State comes into Notre Dame beats them, Hartman is going to be up there with Caleb Williams as a top Heisman Trophy contender. So some interesting time comes up. If you want to get in that market, I would hit Sam Hartman and Caleb Williams right now because I think that these two guys will be out there and trying to get it done this college football season as they shoot for the Heisman Trophy. And obviously, Caleb Williams has bigger fish to fry as he's likely going to be the first pick of the NFL draft, and which should be an amazing tankathon to get the services of Williams. So, plenty of college football this week. We'll take some time every day this week on this program, A Bettor Morning, to get you ready for the upcoming college football season, handicap some of these big games this weekend. Before we get out of here, I do want to touch on and give a shout out to the California El Segundo team as they beat Curacao 6-5 in the finals of the Little League World Series. Shout out to Louis Lapp with a walk-off home run. El Segundo wins Little League World Series. Curacao was the runner-up this year and a runner-up last year. So they lost to Hawaii this year. They lost to California this year. Also very cool that Little League World Series honored Stuart Scott at yesterday's final. He is the 62nd person enshrined into the Little League World Series Hall of Excellence. And obviously, big job by him out there, Stuart Scott. You can all remember how passionate he was when he was going over these highlights of the Little League World Series. A lot of these kids that don't go on to the majors to have the memory of Stuart Scott calling some of their highlights is a big thing. So shout out to really the GOAT of Sports Center broadcast, my man Stuart Scott. And also shout out to you, rocking with the fantasy executive, flying solo. Plenty of day left to come still, right? Make sure you get out here, check out what we got on the Better Sports Network. You got that new Sportstopia, Fantasy Fire and Ice with Drew Silva and Chris Crawford. Shout out to Chris Crawford. That's one of the homies. So make sure you check them out. That's that Sportstopia, Fantasy Fire and Ice. Corey Parson, Fantasy. That's coming up at 9:30 a.m. East. Corey Parson, the Fantasy Executive. Thank you for some time this morning. And y'all go on and have a better day.